All right, so Rule 14, again, procedures for the golf ball is just what I'm going to call it. I'm not going to read out the whole rule because it's a lot of talking, but this is what we are talking about, broken up into these 7 subsections that we're going to talk about in depth here. All right, some notable changes, new limitations on what may be used to mark the spot of the ball. Again, like I talked with Doug before, you can't use a turtle. If you guys missed that little presentation last time, he marked his ball in Florida with a turtle this size, which is a violation. Actually, ball marker has a definition now, what you can use to mark your ball. Something that is a coin or designed to be a ball marker, a poker chip, a tee, your club. You can do all those things, but that's about it. Okay? Ball must be replaced by the hand to be replaced in the right way. So no just like rolling it in with your putter or anything like that. You actually have to use your hand to put that ball when you're replacing it. And dropping in the right way includes 5 different things. The procedures are much more streamlined and easier to understand, but there is still procedures we do have to follow. So the player must drop the ball, but in partner forms of play, the partner can drop the ball as well. So you'll see at the end of all the rules that we're talking about where this partner can get involved in, down there in the blue type, I do believe, you'll see where it talks about rules 21 and 22, or 22 and 23, I still kind of get those mixed up, where the partner can and act as the player according to this verbiage of the rule. So look at the bottom of like 14.3, it says that exact statement that I'm talking about. It's there where the partner can drop the ball for you. Okay. Ball must be dropped from knee height. I think we've already addressed this pretty well today. Ball must be dropped straight down. So again, that's the example. If you're dropping on a slope, as long as you're dropping straight down, you're fine. Okay. You can't just kind of toss it off to the side a little bit. Ball must not touch the player or the player's equipment before it hits the ground. Okay? After it hits the ground is a whole different thing, but before it hits the ground, or the golf course, which would include if you had to drop into a bush or something like that. But if you're having to drop into a bush, you're already having a bad day, and I probably don't want to talk to you about it. And the ball must be dropped in the relief area. And this is the new procedure that we're going to hit very, very in-depth today. Okay. All procedures that require dropping involve a reference point, and we're going to talk about that. And then also a relief area measured by using that reference point. And we'll have different relief area sizes depending on what rule you're operating under. But we will always have a reference point that we're going to start with. Okay? The rule explicitly states putting a ball in play is an intentional act. Okay? So that means if you just set a ball off to the side, is that ball in play? No. No. You have to have the intent of putting the ball in play for it to be in play now. Right? If a player is required to correct a drop, but before redropping causes the ball to move, or any penalty causing for the ball to move is erased if that ball is redropped. So this is the eraser rule in what I've been calling the super eraser rule. So it used to be if you had dropped a ball incorrectly, let's say you dropped it over your shoulder, the ball was in play, and then you kicked it, you got the 1-stroke penalty for moving your ball in play, and it stuck. But now the new rules take that away. So if you correct your error, you're going to get all those penalties taken away. Super eraser rule. Okay. A serious breach of playing from a wrong place on the last hole is now as a time limit of returning the scorecard, not walking off the 18th green. We've had a number of rules that we've applied that to already. All right, so let's talk about the rule 14.1. We'll start getting into it. So this rule applies to the deliberate lifting of a player's ball at rest. So this is not moving a ball at rest by accident. This is actually talking about intent to pick the ball up. Okay? So it's either picking the ball up by hand, rotating it, or otherwise deliberately causing it to move from its spot. Scooping it up with a putter or something like that would fall underneath this rule if you had the intent of picking it up off the ground. Okay? So we're going to talk about some different things within this rule that really give us a definition of how to apply the entire 14 rule. When ball must be replaced, the spot must be marked. We've talked about this before, but here's a real good just reminder of it. Anytime you're going to replace a golf ball on the golf course, whether it's on the putting green or under an application of some rule, we have to mark it. Okay? If we're taking relief for something, we're not replacing the ball, we're dropping it. So do we have to mark it? No. So going through the procedure of a immovable obstruction, such as a cart path, does not require the club links on the ground. Marking the positions doesn't require it. Okay? The ball marker or club must be placed right behind the ball or right next to the ball. So right there it says anywhere around that ball, that's fine. Left, right, back, northeast, southeast, doesn't matter. And the ball marker must be removed before a stroke. This is a new rule that has been put out there. So you can't leave that ball marker in place in making a stroke. You used to be able to, but now you can't. So failure to mark that location or remove that ball marker will result in a 1-stroke penalty, match play, and stroke play. So we'll get into that very, very specific. Okay. So different examples of when we're going to replace a ball. On the putting green, anytime you have the ball on the putting green, you're allowed to mark it, but you're going to replace it. Some other things throughout the golf course to see if it's damaged. When play suspended, we're going to mark that ball and replace it. If we're trying to identify it, we're going to mark it and replace it. Or if we're restoring worsening conditions, for example, your ball's at rest on the fringe, and then Doug hits his bunker shot and puts a bunch of sand on your ball. You can mark it, lift it, clean off all the sand, and then replace it. So there's an example of that. When it interferes with someone else's play, we're going to replace it in that exact same spot as well. And to see if you get relief from a rule. Like, I can't tell if this is in a burrowing animal hole or a regular animal hole now, or if it's actually touching ground under repair. So I'm going to mark it, lift it, and check it, but I am going to replace it. Okay, some good examples there of what we're talking about. Okay, ball marker defined. It has to be an artificial object, so can't use a leaf anymore, can't use a twig or anything like that. It can be a coin, a tee, an object that is made to be a ball marker. Poker chip, for example, has been made to be a ball marker. Other small piece of equipment. Still doesn't say turtles, Doug. Nothing about turtles yet. So let's see. As soon as I come up with a joke, he's right back at me. So, well, we can talk about that afterwards. So, but again, it can no longer be a natural object. So it has to be specifically designed to mark your ball. Okay. So the procedure of this rule: before lifting a ball into this rule, we're going to require to replace it, so we have to mark it. We have to place that marker anywhere around the golf ball that we talked about to get it. We have a question? Sorry. I would include that. Using a divot repair tool to mark your ball, I would include that. Yep. All right, so again, we're going to hold the club next to the ball or place something next to the ball, and again, there's no specific area around that ball that you are required to put it. So if the spot is marked with a ball marker, the player must remove the ball marker before making a stroke. Again, a new addition to this rule, but you can't leave the ball marker in place when you are making a stroke. Yes, you can still mark it with a club, and just hold your club in position. Not a problem there. So, all right. So if the player lifts the ball without marking the spot, marks the spot in the wrong way, or makes a stroke with the ball marker left in place, the player is going to get one penalty stroke. So if we have the multiple breaches, we're going to look into this and see if it's going to be a penalty back to 1.3C4. So if we go through all those procedures and do all of them wrong, we're still going to get the one penalty stroke in that situation. Okay, that's again, we're referring to 1.3C4. But there's your answer. You're going to only get the one penalty stroke. Okay. When a ball is lifted to take relief under the rule, the player is not required to mark the spot before lifting the ball. There's a player with the ground under repair. Does not have to mark the spot if he doesn't want to. We always use the term should here. You know, a player should mark the spot, should mark where you're measuring out so that we know exactly where it is, but not a requirement as long as everything is required within the rule is done correctly. Okay. Who may lift the ball? The player or the partner, or anyone authorized by the player, but it must be authorized each time if it's somebody you've authorized. Okay? The player or the partner can lift the ball at any time. But if I want somebody else to lift it, I have to authorize them. Now, there is an exception for the caddy on the putting green. The caddy's allowed to pick up the ball on the putting green on his own. But through the green, general area, penalty area, bunker, the caddy can't do it on his own. He has to have authorization each and every time from the player or the partner. Okay. Again, I always jump forward. So, off the green, again, must be authorized or we're going to have a penalty for the ball being moved in play. Player is still responsible for actions of the person that they authorized to take their ball. So if the player does, or the person you authorized to do something wrong, the player's still on the hook in that situation.
Is it necessary verbal authorization or just a...
Just any type of authorization is fine. It doesn't have to be verbal or anything. You're like, hey, go ahead. That's fine.
How about if I just pick it up and look at you, you look at me without saying anything?
Well, if somebody goes over to my ball and touches it without any authorization, we might have a penalty or we might not, depending on if it's an outside influence or an opponent or so on and so forth.
Looking at you, you're looking at me, and I'm picking up the ball.
Yeah, if there's something between us, you're fine. You're fine. So.
You said there's one-stroke penalty. It's moved without authorization. So if the caddy just walks up off the green and moves the ball, does the player get the penalty?
Well, the caddy can't, can he? Yeah, the player will get the penalty in that situation because the caddy is the responsibility of the player. Yeah, during the round.
Once caddy does that, and the
the opponent's going to have the issue. Yeah, exactly. All right. So here again is that exception that we talked about there briefly. The putting green, we're allowed the caddy to pick that ball up off the putting green as long as he marks it. But again, if the caddy lifts the ball without authorization when it's anywhere except the putting green, the player will get that one stroke. All right, cleaning the ball, always a fun topic. When can I, when can't I, blah, 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 blah. I'm trying to make it as simple as possible. Hopefully we can get it down to just those 4 times that we're not allowed to clean the ball. Any other situation you are, when you got that ball in your hand, go ahead and clean it unless it falls underneath one of these situations. So the situations we can't clean it, okay? If you're checking for damage, you cannot clean that ball at all. Not even to see, well, maybe it's cut underneath this piece of mud. No, not allowed to do that. Okay. Identification, we're allowed to partially clean it. That's when we can take a little bit off the ball to find the mark or find the number or the name on the golf ball. But no more than identification. So if you've got a ball in your hand that you're trying to identify yours and you're rubbing it and cleaning it off there, you're getting a penalty stroke. Okay. If it's interfering with anyone's play, again, the little 2-finger pinch that we all are familiar with, or setting it off to the side. If you've lifted a ball that is interfering with someone's play or helping with someone's play, you cannot clean it. And then checking for possible relief. So like if we're going through a procedure where we're trying to see if it's in ground under repair or maybe it's touching an immovable obstruction, you can't clean it. However, if you do clean it and then you were entitled to relief, you're okay. Okay, so wait until you find out is the moral there. So any other time on the golf course, you can clean your ball. Okay, just keep that in mind. Like if you're walking along and you accidentally kick your ball in play, you can pick it up, clean it, put it back. You're still going to get a penalty stroke unless it was on the putting green. So, or in search if we're searching for it. Okay, cleaning is not, when you do it, is going to be a 1-stroke penalty when it's not permitted. Now also just a little heads up what cleaning means. It's like if you have a ball that is laying in the fairway and you have grass laying on your ball that's adhering to it and you move it off of there, that's cleaning your golf ball and you're going to get a penalty. Now if it's not adhering to it, if it's just laying up against it, you're fine. But if it's like got some moisture and stuff like that, that's what it means when we're talking about cleaning a ball. So not that that ever happens, but that's the real good example of that. Okay. Again, if we have the multiple acts occurring, we're going to deal with that. But generally, if you're cleaning your ball, you've probably already got a penalty on underneath something else, so you're not going to get a penalty for cleaning it unless that's your only specific act. If that's the only thing you did wrong was clean your ball, you still get the 1 penalty stroke. But if you did something else wrong and cleaned it, you're getting the something else penalty, not for cleaning it. All right, question number 14.1 here. In stroke play event, Bailey's ball is at rest on the putting green. After running a putt past the hole 6 feet, she marks the ball with a tee and in frustration hits her ball off the green. Which of the following is true? I've never seen her do this. This just came up with this one. So is A, Bailey's not penalized, this is allowed, or is Bailey penalized 2 strokes for using a ball marker that's not allowed? Can she use the tee? Okay, so we know B is probably not wrong, right, in this situation. Bailey has made a stroke and her ball is in play where it comes to rest. Has she made a stroke? Why not? She didn't intend to make a stroke. Yeah, so we know C is not right. D, Bailey is penalized 1 stroke for improper lifting procedure. There's nothing in the rules that say how you get your ball out of there when it's marked. So now we're down to 1 answer. What is it? A, she can do that. She can just knock it off there, knock it out of the way, not a problem. Okay. So it's the same thing as scooping up the ball and so, something like that. Just you can get it out of the way any way you can. Now, if she damages the green, we might have a Sergio incident going on. But in this case, the exact way that this question is written, there's going to be no penalties. Okay? No. I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, if she hits it toward the hole, and watches it or something like that, maybe. Again, we have to decide a question of a fact whether it's going to happen, but I wouldn't consider just being pissed and knocking it off the green as testing. And I'm not going to go tell her at that point either. All right. Like if she hits, she cannot replace her ball in that situation. No, the question was, so like if Bailey knocks her ball into the water in anger, she is not allowed to replace her ball. It specifically says in the rules, unless the player caused it, you cannot substitute a ball in that situation. So if she knocks it in the water, for her not to get a penalty, she's better put her scuba gear on and go get it. So if it's an accident, you can do it. Like if you're tossing it to your caddy and the caddy misses it and it goes in the water, you're okay. But she intentionally did this, and she would not be allowed to substitute a ball in that situation. Good question. So Bailey's got to watch her anger on the putting greens.
Yeah, she didn't intend to hit the ball in the water.
No, she didn't.
But it did go in the.
She intended to hit the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. If the player causes it purposely, it's in the rule. Trust me. I saw this one because I.
I believe you.
So, all right.
If she intended to hit the ball, isn't it a stroke?
If she intends to hit the ball with the intent of making a stroke, okay, not this. She's intending to move the ball off the marker. So there's a fine line there, but
No, she wasn't intending to move the ball.
well, in anger.
She was trying to strike.
I could argue and say she's trying to. If she marks her, puts a mark down, she's going to move her ball. And she knows she can't play a stroke because she took my seminar and says you can't leave a ball mark in place. So, all right. So let's talk about 14.2. We're 1/7 of the way there today. All right. So the original ball must be used when we're replacing a ball in a spot, with a couple of exceptions that we can hit here in a little bit. Who must replace the ball and how we're going to do it? The spot where we're going to do it. Where to replace the ball if we have that original lie altered, and what to do if the ball does not stay on its spot. Okay? Maybe Ricky would have loved to have applied that one yesterday. All right, so some changes. Again, the ball must be replaced by the hand. We've got to get the hand on the ball and set it into position. We can't scoop it in or kick it in or anything like that, or just kind of toss it down there. We've got to have our hand put it in position and release. A ball is never dropped when replacing. Okay, we've hit this a couple of times, but when you're replacing a ball, we're never going to be dropping it. Okay, no matter what the situation is. Even if we don't know the spot of the ball and we have to replace it, we're going to estimate it and replace it. Okay? If the original lie or location is not known, again, we're going to estimate it. Okay? If the ball was under grass or any other attached items, you're going to replace it under those items. So we talked a little bit about this last week about a can in the bunker and a leaf there. Situation, if the ball is going to be moved because of the removal of a loose impediment, and for some reason we have to replace our ball in that situation, you can't remove that loose impediment. You've got to leave that loose impediment in place. Rare situation, but it can happen. All right, so this rule applies whenever a ball is lifted or moved, and a rule requires it to be replaced on the spot. So this doesn't apply to natural forces. So if natural forces causes the ball to move, 14.2 isn't going to be an issue at all. Okay. The original ball must be used when replacing a ball. Okay? So again, replacing, we talked about in 14.1. What are some examples of replacing a ball? Putting green, or it was moved, some other player played it, examples like that. Okay. Some exceptions to when this original ball must not be replaced, can't be easily recovered. Okay? That situation that we have the ball that goes into the water, like when the caddy tosses it or something like that, as long as the player didn't cause this issue on purpose. If the original ball is cut or cracked, we're allowed to replace that ball, we're allowed to substitute. When play is resumed at any time, we're allowed to substitute a golf ball as well. Or when it's played as a wrong ball by somebody else, we're not going to make you go get your original ball and come back. You can substitute it, no problem. But the incorrect substitution, if you do it, is a general penalty under 6.3b, loss of whole match play, 2 strokes and stroke play. Okay. Any questions on substitution, yes or no? When we can, when we can't? Carol?
If your ball is, you look at it and you say, yeah, it's cut or cracked, do you need to let anyone know or
Nope.
let them see it?
No, we do not need to let anyone know anymore. We're trusting the player.
Even on that,
Yeah.
you can then replace it.
Yep, exactly, exactly.
And even if incorrect, the ball is in play.
Yeah, if we've incorrectly substituted a ball, it is in play. Yeah, if we have the intent of putting the ball in play, it is in play. And you'll see as we go through this rule, there's a lot of times when the ball is in play, even though it was a bad procedure or something was wrong, the ball is still in play. All right, so who must replace the ball? The player's ball must be replaced under the rules only by the player. Okay, I know it says only by the player, but we also know that includes what? The partner, exactly. There it is right there. Rules 22 and 23 say anyone on the side can do it. Can the caddy replace the ball? It depends. It depends. One, on the putting green, can the caddy replace it? Yes, because he can pick it up. Okay? Anywhere else, the caddy can't do it unless he's the one who caused it to move, whether it was intentional or accidental. Okay? So if Keith and I are playing, and we're just in the stroke play event, and Keith kicks my ball, I can replace it, my partner can replace it, or Keith can replace it. Those are the 3 people that can. All right, so how must the ball be replaced? The ball must be replaced by setting it down in the required spot and letting it go so it stays on that spot. So that's just saying, use your hands, let it go, it's got to come to rest. Okay, Ricky's example, I love that it happened yesterday because we can refer to it and it's all fresh in our mind. He let it go, ball was in play. It was at rest for a while. Yeah. So if the player plays the ball in that way or was replaced in the wrong way but on the required spot, the player gets a 1 penalty stroke. So if you replace a ball with your putter and just kind of scoop it in there into the right spot and play it, that's a 1-stroke penalty because you replaced it in the wrong way. That's an example of that rule right there being violated. Okay? Again, just kind of to go over this and make sure that everybody's clear on this. Player, partner, or the person who lifted it must replace it. That's it. Must replace it by setting it down on the required spot and must let it go. There's Johnny Miller there replacing a ball on the putting green. And when placing a ball in a rule, it must be placed by setting it down on the required spot and letting it go. So it's really specific. This rule can be violated a number of different ways, and this rule really lays it out where you need to put that golf ball. When the wrong person replaces the ball or replaces it in the wrong way, it's a penalty stroke. So if the wrong person replaces it, those 3 people that we talked about in the Keith situation there, if Lynn were to replace my ball and I play it, I'm going to get a penalty stroke. Okay, wrong person replaced it. Yes?
Any of this is correctable?
Yes. Yeah, these are correctable errors. Now keep in mind, these mistakes that we're causing here are talking about only result in a penalty win if a stroke is played. So if we drop a ball from here, is it a penalty? Not until a stroke is played. Okay? If we replace it in the wrong way, not until a stroke is played.
What's the rationale, Todd, for now having a penalty for hitting a ball with the markers not been lifted?
Maybe alignment was the first thing that I talked about. There could be some alignment aids. Also, it's just not the typical golf stroke to have something placed there on purpose that could assist the player in some sort of way. That's I mean, I thought about this too. I'm like, it doesn't matter, but also I can see how this is uniform across the new rules. You know, how just like we're trying to get these things to seem like it's the same thing over and over again. We don't want the alignment to help in any type of way. So that's kind of how I look at it as well.
Just a bit of clarification. So if a player lifts the ball in the putting green, the caddy can replace it?
The caddy can replace it.
Even though the player is the one?
Yes. The caddy can replace the ball in the putting green. Okay. And I'm at 97.5% on that one because I know what you're asking there, but I think you can. But let me double check that and I'll get back to you on that one.
Is there any change on a ball that is hit into a putting green and let's say it embeds
Okay.
on a steep slope?
Uh-huh.
Then you try to put it back, but it won't stay.
Ball won't stay where we're trying to replace it. It's coming up.
So, okay.
It's coming up. Yep. No change, but it's coming up. Yep. So,
Now that it scrambles a form of golf,
right.
a lot of people leave their marker in.
Yeah, so the scramble format, if we put the ball off, if we have the ball marker in position on the ball, we're going to be penalized, but if we put it off to the side, you're going to be fine. Yep. Yep. All right. Again, ball must be replaced on the original spot, so under 14.2c. And if the spot is not known, it should be estimated and the ball is placed at the estimated spot. Again, no dropping. Okay, we're going to have the player place it as much as possible in the situation. The spot includes vertical distance as well. So if the ball was way down in the grass and we move it, we got to replace it, we're going to put it way down in the grass. Vertical does matter. Okay? If the ball was under or against something fixed, it must be replaced under or against it. So if you move a ball in play that was up against an OB stake, you don't get to move the OB stake out of the way. You have to replace it up against that OB stake. So, all right. So, question? Yep.
Okay, so I as a player mark my ball, and I give it to my caddy to clean.
Uh-huh.
And then the caddy replaces the ball.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying that's valid, even though I was the one that picked up the ball?
Yes, on the putting green, it's okay. That's what I'm saying. So, but again, I'm not 97.5 on that one.
97.5?
Yeah. So, and that's where I'm not 100% correct. So I'm just leaving myself wiggle room. So, yeah, it could. It's very, very often the 2.5 is what's the one that's correct. So, all right. But I think Doug's looking that one up for me as well. All right. So, the spot where the ball must be replaced, it's got to be on the original spot. If not known, we're going to estimate it, except when the ball must be replaced on a different spot. So I love how the rules read. You're supposed to put it back here unless you're not. This is what they're saying. So, but there are some different rules that we're going to talk about here shortly, what we're going to do if we can't replace it on the original spot. Okay? If any loose impediments were removed, I'm sorry, Doug's got the answer?
I think you're wrong.
Okay. 2.5.
In Rule 10, 10.3b lists what the caddy may do.
Right.
The action is not allowed. Replace the ball, like the third bullet point. Replace the ball unless the caddy
just lifted it? Okay. So on the putting green, he's allowed to pick it up and then replace it, but he can't just replace it. Yep. So the 2.5 fell in. And not the first time. Not the first time. So, but see, you got to remember, I'm thinking Rule 14 today. You guys are talking Rule 10, so I mean, that's old news. I'm always looking for an excuse. All right, so good. We're clear on that one. The caddy can only replace the ball if he moved it in one way or another in that situation. All right, so if any loose impediments were removed as a result of a ball being moved, they do not need to be replaced. So if you're searching for your ball in this situation and you accidentally kick it, is there a penalty? What if the ball's in a bunker? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. So if you're searching for your ball and you accidentally move it, no penalty. But if you move those leaves with it accidentally as well, we don't have to recreate the lie or replace those loose impediments. So lucky break there. Okay? Talking about we're looking for a ball in the sand and we have to replace it. And there's two different situations we're going to talk about. So one, if we move a ball in sand, we have to replace it. We also have to recreate the lie. This is true on the golf course or in a bunker, not just a sand trap, not just a bunker situation. This is anywhere in the golf course when it's in sand. Okay? The ball was covered by sand. A small part of the ball may be left visible, so we don't have to completely recover it. We're allowed to see a little bit of that ball. If the lie is not recreated, the player has then played from a wrong place, so that's where that rule will kick in. So if you just put it back in that same spot but don't recreate the lie, you're playing from a wrong place. And what's that penalty going to be? You guys already know that. It's 14.7. We haven't even talked about it today yet, so good. All right. We're going to replace the ball by placing on the nearest spot where a lie is most similar. And this is very common with running over a golf ball on a golf cart. This is when this rule really comes into play here. Okay, so the ball was moved. It was vertically moved down, so we have to replace it. We can't replace it in the same position because there's a big pitch mark there now. So we're going to replace it in the most similar lie. We're going to estimate that as well. If we didn't know it, if we just ran over it, we're going to estimate what that lie was, and we're going to place it within one club length of that original lie and move on. Okay?
Where does it say within one club length?
The one club length of the original lie. Yep. Yep, it's there. I mean, I'm the same way. I start seeing something and I stop reading and then boom, it's there. So again, we can't go near the hole. Hopefully everybody was aware of that one, but that's generally the principle in golf that we can never go near the hole. So it also has to be the same area of the golf course. So if you run over this ball in a bunker with your cart, you don't get to put it out in the general area. So. All right, again, if the player knows that the original lie was altered but does not know what the lie was, we're going to estimate it. Okay? So if the player doesn't know that his ball was moved and he plays it, is he penalized for a wrong place? No. If the player has no knowledge that his ball was moved, then obviously we can't penalize him for playing it from where it lied. So, but again, the player must estimate the original lie and replace the ball under the two situations that we just talked about there.
Okay, so you get the situation where somebody hits into the rough, thick rough, Kurt's driving around, then somebody finds a ball, and it may or may not have been run over. Just leave that to the player's discretion to say, I think this was run over.
Yeah, so if we're not sure if a ball had been run over by a golf cart, we're just going to look at the evidence and make a decision in that situation. You know, we have to come up with something to keep on playing golf. If we get into a really big argument, then the committee can come in and say something. But at that point, I would imagine somebody generally defer to the player unless he's not using reasonable judgment. So, yep.
In that case, we roll over a ball and replace it within one club length. If the ball's in the rough, and one club length brings it into, say, the second cut or the fairway,
Sure. Are we allowed to do that? So the question was, you run over a ball in the rough, and it alters your lie, and you're required to replace it within one club length of the original lie, and one club length brings you from rough to fairway. Can we place it in the fairway? Yes. Yep, it's still the general area. But it's got to be the most similar lie. So if it's really thick rough, then we're not going to be able to do the fairway if it's thin fairway. So you see what I'm saying here? You could have some thick fairway that's equal to the rough. You could, but very rare. But it has to be the similar lie. So you could move it somewhere else. The cut of grass doesn't matter, but it does matter for the lie of the ball. So that's a little confusing, but when you think about it, we've got to recreate the lie. We've got to recreate the lie. But we could do it in the fairway if it was a thin patch of rough. I mean, it's possible, as long as it's the same amount of grass. Yeah, shouldn't have the cart in the rough anyway. Okay. And again, the two situations that we're talking about that is the ball in sand and anywhere except sand. So,
The way I read the rule, it says the player must replace the ball by placing it on the nearest spot with a lie most similar to it. So
Right.
one club length seems to me that the spot's got to be within one club length, but if the spot's 2 inches away, it has to be.
you have to use that
2
one.
inches away.
Yes, that's exactly how the rule reads. Yeah, the question is, so it says you're supposed to replace it in the most similar lie that's nearest to the original lie, but within one club length. So there's going to be times where maybe that nearest lie is a club length away that's similar to what we had, but generally it's going to be right next to it. Yeah, we don't want this player to have a super big advantage just because their ball was moved and their lie was altered. So yeah, that's exactly how the rule reads.
So you can't just say, well, I placed
No.
it within one club length.
You don't get to do it, but you can. There's a big difference there. Absolutely. You can if you have to. Yep. Yep. All right. So there's some exceptions here when we have play stopped and the ball has been lifted. We're going to see Rule 5.7d that we've already talked about. So if your lie is altered during a suspension of play, this rule doesn't take effect. We're going to go into Rule 5 and talk about it. All right. So now we're talking about the ball that won't stay at rest. So first of all, if we try to replace the ball and it won't stay there, we're going to try a second time, and if it doesn't, will not stay after 2 tries. We're going to find the nearest place it will stay that is not near the hole and is on the same area of the golf course. Okay? But there is an exception to that one. Except if it was on the putting green, the nearest place could be on the putting green or the general area. Okay? So if you're in this situation and you can't get your ball to come to rest in the general area, you've got to find a spot in the general area, if that original lie was. The putting green, you might be on the putting green, you might be in the general area. Okay? Okay? They removed the decision for the ball in the bunker. This is where the situation was where you had a ball that may have crept into a bunker that was just barely in the bunker and like up against a rake or something like that, and you move the rake and the ball rolled forward into the bunker, and you can't get the ball to stay in that back lip. Now you have to go underneath an unplayable lie. There's no equity decision that says you get to take it out of the bunker for no penalty. So that they've removed that decision there. So a rare situation. Hopefully we can get most places to keep rakes outside of the bunker, but maintenance vehicles don't like that. So, all right, so what do we do if we don't get it to go? So we're going to, again, try to replace it. If it doesn't work, we're going to try it again. If it doesn't work then, we're going to get that spot estimated. So I think I have a couple of videos coming up here that we're going to see that. So, but with these limits, depending on where that original spot is located. So specifically here in the rules, here's where we're going to see it worded out. The nearest spot must be in the general area if the original spot was in the general area. Nothing else is said. It's pretty simple. If the ball's in the general area, keep it in the general area. Original spot's in a bunker or penalty area. The nearest spot must be in that same bunker or the same penalty area. So if you can't get the ball to stay in that bunker, you don't get to go pick another bunker. Or you don't get to pick a penalty area, or you don't get to take it out into the general area. Okay? Same thing with the penalty areas. If you can't get the ball to come to rest in that penalty area, you're going to have to operate underneath the penalty area rules. Okay? If the original spot was on the putting green, the nearest spot must be on the putting green of the general area. Okay? Everybody clear on that? Where we're going to go? This is also a great example of over-officiating. You will see what I'm talking about. All right, so that ball has to be replaced. Hey, that's where you mark your ball. Okay, tried it twice, didn't work, so now we're going to try to find a spot. No. Okay, that's fine. We're going to try it there. Nope. Oh, how about there? No, that didn't work. Where should I go now? Oh, okay, how about here? All right. Pretty straightforward there. Maybe some over-officiating. Let me move on to the next one.
So you're stating now that the USGA is saying that rakes should be outside the bunker?
No, I'm just saying that's how I think it should be. The USGA did publish something that said they would rather the rakes be out of the bunker for rule situations, but understand that maintenance vehicles and practices prefer them inside. So there's no right or wrong answer. You do. Yeah, there is no right answer to this one. All right, here's a good example here of a ball in the putting green. Somehow Phil found a way to have a ball stick in its own pitch mark in a U.S. Open putting green. Doesn't look bad from here. There you can get a little bit of a taste of the slope of that green. So if you look at this situation, and it backs out here a little bit, there's a good example of how slopey that green is. There's no way he's getting this ball to stay on the putting green. So he ends up putting this up in the fringe. And if you'll notice that once we've tried it twice and we're looking for a new spot, we don't need to try it twice on the next new spot. It's just now just try to get it at rest. There's no requirement that says twice every time. Getting closer. Eventually he gets it to come to rest. I think he's just barely on the fringe now. So. That's right. All right, yeah. Now he's marked his ball and lifted it. So now he's going to replace it there, and if he can't get it to come to rest again for some reason, he's going to try to move it a little bit more, but it looks like he's going to be in good position there. Any questions on that procedure?
Not a question, but assuming that situation come up and there was a hazard, a penalty area right next to the green.
Okay.
He finally gets the ball where he feels it to rest.
Uh-huh.
I was told that as an official, you should ask that player, do you agree that this ball's at rest? So that should the ball move,
Right.
like Rick and Fowler situation, there wouldn't be any issues.
Right. Yeah, and the point that Bruce brings up there should, like in this situation, sometimes rules officials ask the player, do you agree the ball's at rest? And that's just specifically to avoid some confrontation once the player agrees to it. Not a requirement or not anything that the rules want you to do, but it is a good way to avoid some situations like, hey, Phil, you agree the ball's at rest, now it's in a penalty area, sorry. So not a bad idea. And I've done it many times as well. So.
So now Phil is moved, if I followed correctly, under the fringe.
Uh-huh.
No, he's on the green.
I think he was close. I thought he might be on the fringe, but if he's still on the green, there you go. There you go.
The point was going to be if he moved the ball and it
If he moves it onto the fringe, he can't mark it. You're right. That's a good point. That's a very good point. Yeah, so I thought the video that he was moving it into a different part of the golf course, but you're right. When he marks it, he's obviously on the putting green.
The thing I thought interesting was they only went on an arc towards the fringe. They never looked a little bit farther.
Right, and I've thought about that too.
It has to be the nearest point, right? Even if
Yeah.
it's farther from the hole.
Right. Yeah, and so, like, again, if the rules official tells him to go here, he's fine. But, yeah, the nearest point for him might have been back.
I mean, it may have been that green had so much. It
Right.
didn't look like it was very far on the green.
Right.
It may have been there was so much tilt that it was going to be off the fringe that way.
Right, and what's interesting is this rule also says the ball can be on the putting green or the general area, so it doesn't have to stay on the putting green. It's not one of those situations where, well, I can go all the way around the green because I'm entitled to the ball on the green. You're right, it could have been behind him. In this situation, they agreed that it was off to the right. So,
In that situation, he had to take the ball to the fringe in the general area. It stayed put. The ball was in play.
yep.
He walks away, get a club, rolls into the hazard like Ricky Fowler. Now is he charged a penalty stroke even though he was originally on the green?
No. I mean, you mean like if it goes into a penalty area?
Yeah. The ball,
If he goes under the penalty area rules and wants to take relief from the penalty area, yeah, he's got to get another penalty stroke.
The ball is on the green, just like Nicholson.
Sure.
He moves it.
Onto the fringe,
Finally, it's in the fringe.
right?
Okay, you can't mark it.
Right?
Goes and gets the club, the ball rolls into a penalty area.
Okay.
That's a penalty stroke, just like Ricky.
If he wants to take a penalty stroke, he can play it as it lies.
Well, no, I understand.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean,
My point is,
his ball is now at rest in the general area. Yeah, just the fact that it was on the putting green has nothing to do with it. Has nothing to do with it. So, and he's also probably going to still get the green in regulation on his stats, I would imagine. So, I don't know. So. All right, guys, let's stop on the questions here. I'm getting a little bit behind here. Please ask me afterwards because we got a lot of things to get through here. All right, so if we don't replace the ball or we incorrectly substitute it, we've got this this penalty statement that's very familiar to us hopefully by now. So we'll have the wrong place situation or a substituted ball situation is going to be in breach of this rule. You're penalized underneath this rule, the general penalty. Okay. Again, multiple breaches. 1.3c tells us all about that. All right, so in a stroke play event, Taylor accidentally kicks her ball during search in a penalty area. She was not exactly sure where the original spot was, so she estimates it and drops the original ball, which comes to rest on the estimated spot, which the following is true. All right, what are we seeing there that's not good for Taylor? She dropped it. Okay, that's it, right? What else is it wrong? Anything? Any penalty for moving her ball? Is she playing from a wrong spot? No. Okay, this is a really rare situation. She dropped it, but it came to rest on the spot she was supposed to place it. Okay? Very rare situation here, but I just want you to understand the difference in the wording of this rule. Okay, so in this situation, Taylor's penalized 1 stroke for replacing the ball in the wrong way. Okay, she was entitled to replace the ball. Actually, she was required to replace the ball. She did it the wrong way. She replaced it in the right spot, luckily. Okay, if it had come to rest any other position, what's her penalty going to be? 2 strokes or loss of hole. Absolutely. So just make sure you understand the wording of that rule. That's what they mean about the right spot or the wrong way being replaced. Okay, everybody good on that? And that's never going to happen. Nobody's going to drop it onto the exact spot. There's no way it can happen. And of course, it'll happen 5 times in my first time. Yeah, it's an estimated spot, but it is a spot. You can't drop it and say, oh, there's the estimated spot. You know, you're going to do it before we replace the ball. She was replacing the ball and did it wrong. All right, we're at 14.3 now, dropping a ball in a relief area. The procedures that we're all very familiar with now with the knee height and the right way, the wrong way, and all this stuff we're going to talk about moving forward here in 14.3. Significant changes, knee height. Okay, again, we're going to trust the player's judgment and the reasonable standard is going to apply. If they get it close, they're fine. Okay, player may always substitute a ball when dropping. Okay, that's something that's brand new to the rules that we've talked about a number of times. Partner may drop your ball for you. That's very new to the rules as well. The ball must stay in the relief area. We have to play the ball from the relief area now. Okay, we don't get it just let it hit the ground and see what happens. We want it to be in this relief area. The ball may accidentally strike personal equipment, but when? After it strikes the golf course. Absolutely. Okay? This rule applies whenever a player must drop a ball in taking relief under a rule, and including when the player must complete taking relief by placing a ball under the rule. So like if we go drop, drop, and then place to get the ball back in play, 14.3 is the rule that's guiding us. Original ball or another ball may be used. So the player may use the original ball or another ball, as long as it's conforming. Or if you're playing the 1-ball rule, you've got to use the 1-ball rule. So that, again, this means that the player may use any ball each time he or she drops or places under a rule. So you drop it, your original ball's on the cart path, you substitute it, drop it, rolls into a lake, you get it substituted again, that one rolls out of the relief area, you get to substitute it while you're placing it. So anytime you're going through this rule, you get to substitute a ball. Please don't do that. Please don't just keep substituting balls. So the player must drop a ball in the right way. So what does the right way mean? All these 3 things. 1, the player must drop the ball, or the partner. The ball must be dropped straight down from the knee without touching the player or the equipment, and the ball must be dropped into the relief area. And the relief area is going to be different from rule to rule. So make sure that you know what rule you're operating under to what's the size and the limitations of the relief area. Okay? Knee height means the height of the player's knee when standing. I know, I think Mark talked about this example right here. So as long as he's dropping at knee height, you got that red X there because the player in the bottom right's not at knee height. That's where this rule kicks in there. So.
I have a question, Todd.
Yep.
If a partner is dropping for you, does he drop from
All right. The person dropping the ball is going to drop it at their knee height, as I believe the situation. They're not, so like if you're playing with Jack Garvin, you don't have to come down here. We didn't even plan this out, Jack. It's just it's so organic to the situation. So, exactly. All right. Thanks for the great question, Doug. All right. Reasonable judgment standard applies. Where's the knee? Reasonable judgment. Okay. Ball must be dropped into the relief area. So the ball has to strike the golf course in the relief area. So like again, the situation, if you have to drop it into a bush, that relief area is basically up and down like that. So if it hits a twig in the bush or something like that, you're fine, as long as it's in the relief area. Okay. Ball must come to rest in the relief area. And the ball played when a redrop is required. If it's outside the relief area, we're going to get a general penalty. So if you drop the ball in this situation there in the middle, and you play that ball from outside the relief area, you're losing the whole match play, and you're getting a 2-stroke penalty in stroke play. Okay? If you drop it in a wrong way, and you play it from the relief area, you're only getting 1 penalty stroke. Because you did something right. So the rules are going to take that penalty and just say, it's just half of it. So make sure you understand that difference. Okay? Where would the ball be played from if it was outside of the relief area? What's that called? Wrong place. So wrong place is going to be a 2-stroke penalty. Just remember that. But if you do it in the wrong way and play it from the right place, we're only going to get you 1 stroke. If it's placed rather than dropped in the relief area, however, general penalty. Okay, and it specifically says this in the rules. So if you're required to drop it into a relief area and you place it in the relief area, that's a general penalty. Okay? Everybody good on that? Perfect. Player has completed taking relief when the ball dropped in the right way comes to the rest of the relief area. Okay? So this is the procedure that we're talking about that allows lots of things to happen. So we got the player on the right there. She's dropping it from knee height. That's good. So again, when it hits into the relief area and stays in the relief area under any circumstance, we're going to play it. Okay? So it does not matter whether the ball, after hitting the ground, touches any person, equipment, or outside influence before coming to rest. Okay? So even if the ball lands in the relief area, rolls out of the relief area, and back into the relief area, we're okay. We're going to play. Okay? We have an exception to that, of course, because this is the rules of golf. We have lots of those. When a ball is dropped in the right way, is deliberately deflected or stopped by any person for what to do when the drop ball is deliberately deflected. We're going to look at this rule 14.3D coming up, but we can't deliberately deflect the ball. So like, what that would mean, like if you go to drop it, and you just kind of grab it before it hits the ground, you're deliberately deflecting it. Or you kick it into position. Okay? There is an exception if the ball is clearly going to be out of the relief area. So if you drop a ball and it's going to roll into a lake, you can stop it. That's fine. Okay? So the player must drop a ball again if this happens. If we deliberately deflect a dropped ball, the player must drop a ball again using the procedures that we just went through. And the ball that was deliberately deflected or stopped does not count as one of the 2 drops required for the drop place that we talk about. This is a non-drop situation. It was done completely wrong, so we're not going to do a drop place with this stopping of the ball. We're just going to start over in this situation. It seems fair, doesn't it? It seems like that's a pretty significant violation there of stopping a ball in motion. So we're just going to say it never happened. Let's start over. Now, when I say never happened, there's still going to be penalties involved.
Ricky Fowler's caddy dropped, picked up the ball.
Yep.
Dropped.
Yep, exactly. That's why Ricky had the drop place situation. As soon as the ball was going to be out of the relief area and we knew it, the caddy can stop it, no problem. Okay. So if the ball was deliberately deflected or stopped by any player or his or her caddy, that player gets the general penalty. Okay. So if I'm dropping and Doug is playing with me in a stroke play event and his caddy stops my ball deliberately, Doug gets the penalty. Because it was his caddy that did it. So.
Told his caddy to do it, right?
Yeah, probably did. Probably did. Probably told him to ask me a silly question, too.
Trying to keep the in-play criteria
Uh-huh.
correct. Ball dropped properly and leaves the relief area.
Uh-huh.
The ball's in play.
Okay, so if a ball is dropped and it hits in the relief area and comes to rest outside of the relief area, is that ball in play? Yes. When did that ball become in play? When it left the hand. Yeah, it's not in the right place, but it's in play.
But you can walk over and pick it up.
Yep, you can correct the error of a wrong place situation. Yes, you're not going to be penalized just because your ball rolled out of the relief area. You're going to be penalized when you make a stroke from a wrong place. Yep, good question. Very good question. Okay. Here's that exception that I talked about. If it's deliberately deflected or stopped when there's no reasonable chance that it will come to the relief area. And again, we're going to use reasonable judgment in that situation and side on the player. Okay. In that situation, there's no penalty to the player, and the drop ball is treated as coming to rest outside of the relief area and counts as one of the 2 drops required before a ball must be replaced. So the Ricky Fowler situation, even if we stop that ball intentionally in the relief area because it's going to fly into the water, it counts as one of the 2 drops, and we're going to move on. Okay, good on that? Cool. All right, here's my question under 14.3. In stroke play event, do we have a question before? Okay, yeah, go ahead, Bill.
In the situation you just described,
Uh-huh.
previous slide,
Uh-huh.
did that apply to Jordan Spieth last year in the Ryder Cup when he stopped that ball?
When he stopped the ball, that's a different rule. He was stopping a ball in motion, okay, not a dropped ball. So we would be under Rule 11, I do believe. So, and it's now allowed, the situation where he is now. Yeah. So the question was about the Jordan Spieth Ryder Cup thing, when his opponents putted the ball and it was clearly past the hole, and Jordan stopped it, and he got a loss of hole penalty. That rule has changed to where now there's no clearly way that the ball was going to be holed, no penalty. But again, it's not under 14, it's under 11, I do believe. So, but no penalty. All right, so hopefully everybody's had a good chance to look at this one, but let's just go over it. In the stroke play event, Doug is taking relief from a cart path. He correctly determines the reference point and relief area, but drops the ball from shoulder height. He then remembers it's 2019 and he must drop from knee height. So Doug lifts the ball and notices it has a scuff in it from the cart path, so he goes over and gets a brand new ball, and he accidentally drops it from shoulder height again. So in order to avoid penalty, which of the following is completely correct? All right, so let's walk through this situation. The first drop from the shoulder. We know that's not good, right? Does it count as a drop for the drop place? No. It was not done in the right way. So this doesn't even count. So no, we don't care where the ball went. Okay? Is he allowed to substitute a ball? Yes. Even though it was scuffed? Okay, just throwing that out there. All right, so we're getting there. For the scuff, you can substitute a ball anytime you're dropping at all. You can always substitute a golf ball. Okay. All right. So he dropped it again from that shoulder height. So we know that's wrong. So in order to him to get out of this, what does he have to do? He's going to drop it correctly, but where is he going to drop it? You can drop any ball the right way, but he's not going to be placing it. Okay? Because again, the drop didn't count in that situation, so he has to redrop. This is not a drop place. He still hasn't done it right, but he has to go through the correct procedure, drop it from his knee, drop it into the relief area. Okay? Kind of a confusing situation, but hopefully you guys see where I'm going with this question here.
If it wasn't accidental, I don't know how that could be.
Like accidentally doing this? Yeah, it doesn't.
The second time.
Yeah, accidentally dropping wrong? Is that what you're saying? Yeah. Yeah. The accidental act is not going to be exonerated from penalty if he plays a stroke, because he's not dropping in the right way. That's the rule. This is an example where accident in English is different from accident in golf, because this is a purposeful act of him doing that. So, everybody good with that? Yeah, Carol.
So taking relief from the cart path, if his relief area was either a penalty area or bunker, could that be part of the relief area in this situation?
So can we take relief area from a cart path, or take relief from a cart path and the relief area be not in the general area?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, and I believe the answer is yes. I believe we can drop into a bunker, but I don't think you can drop into a penalty area. But let me look that one up, because that's a good question. Because I remember the old rule, but I don't want to talk about the old rule. That's a very good question, but the more I'm thinking about it, I think he's dropping in the general area. But
I know in the definition for relief area, it said it can be specific to the general area.
right,
Can be specific. So
exactly.
in my mind, that's saying that it also can be.
Right. So if he's taking relief under the immovable obstruction rule, the immovable obstruction rule will lay out the specifications for the relief area. So you can find that one out there for me as well and see what it says. All right. Go. All right. When is that player's ball back in play after we got something going on? So once the ball has been taken out of play, when are we going to get back in play? So in teeing area, when the original or another ball is played. Okay, so what does that mean? When it's teed up? No. Okay? A stroke must be made from the teeing area for that ball to be back in play. Okay? Because remember, the teeing area rules are pretty lenient and pretty different now. So if we're playing a ball from the teeing area, you can just kind of throw it down there, kick it around, move it around with your club. It's not in play until you make a stroke with it. Okay? So that's anytime you're going back to the tee or you're starting from the tee, the ball's not in play until you make a stroke. Any other area of the course when a ball is replaced, placed, or dropping with the intent for it to be put in play. So the way to remember this is anytime you are putting a ball back in play, as soon as you're done touching it, it's in play. Whether it's a drop and you're done touching it, as it's falling through the air, that ball's in play. Once you take your fingers off of it when you're replacing it, that ball's in play, provided it has come to rest. Provided you get it at rest. Okay? Doug?
Relief area must be in the general area.
Under. Thank you. So relief from an immovable obstruction, a cart path in the general area. The relief area must be in the general area. Thank you. So you cannot drop in a bunker. You cannot drop in a penalty area. It is possible you have no relief area. Yes, it is possible. It's unlikely, but it is possible. And this is a good example. If you come up on a player and they've got a ball somewhere that they want to do something with it, try to let that player keep the ball in place before we do anything else. 16.1b? Perfect. Thank you. So if you see somebody's ball in a cart path and they call you over to go through a procedure, have the ball stay in place just in case they don't like their options. It doesn't have to be marked. It doesn't have to be all that stuff. You can lift it if you want, but once you lift it, you got to proceed under a rule if you don't want a penalty. Okay.
Prime example is down south. Used to be number 1 team, now it's number 10, I believe.
At,
It's number 1 now.
at what course? Okay. Well, let me know afterwards. We'll talk about it afterwards. So, okay. So again, just keep in mind the player's options might not be great. Again, I've talked about this before. It's the nearest point of relief, not the nicest point of relief. They might not like where they have to go, so they may want to play it as it lies on the cart path. Okay. So if we even wrongly substitute or in a wrong place or put it in play in a wrong way, that ball is in play. What are we concerned with about getting a ball in play? We talked about it earlier. What's the only thing that puts a ball in play that we're talking about with the player thinking about it? Intent. So if you are intending to put a ball in play and you just completely screw it up, it's still in play. Okay, so stuff can happen to your ball that's put in play the wrong way, but it is in play. Okay. So if a player returns a ball to the course in any way with the intent for it to be in play, the ball is in play, even if it was substituted for the original ball, when not allowed. Replace, dropped, or placed in a wrong place, wrong way, by wrong procedure. Okay? So just to, like I said, to make this less verby, just if the player had intent to put it in play, it's in play. It doesn't matter if it was right or wrong. Okay. A replaced ball is in play even if the ball marker marking its spot has not been removed. A very common misunderstanding by a lot of golfers that once you put a mark down, that ball's out of play. Not the case. When is the ball out of play? Lifted. When the ball has been lifted. Like even if I have a ball in play, Keith and I are playing and Keith again kicks my ball in play. Is my ball in play after he kicks it? Yes. It's still in play. I can still play it. I'm going to be penalized if I do, but it's in play. It hasn't been lifted. Okay? That's going to get the ball out of play. All right. Now we're to 14.5, the eraser rule, which is now I call the super eraser rule. Very common rule that we're going to use. You see Phil here dropping at shoulder height. So is he penalized? Not yet. He might have been penalized for dropping out of the penalty area. He's standing next to a red stake. But he's not penalized for an incorrect drop until he makes a stroke. Okay? The eraser rule 14.5 is going to allow us to fix these mistakes. Error can be corrected as long as a stroke has not been made. Okay? So if Phil drops the ball from shoulder height, makes a stroke, and then goes, oh no, I was supposed to drop at knee height, I'm going to fix that. It's too late. It's too late. He's going to get a penalty of what? What's he going to get a penalty for playing from a ball that he dropped from shoulder height? I guess it depends where it came to rest, right? If it came to rest in the relief area, 1 stroke. If it comes to rest out of the relief area, he'll get a 2-stroke penalty. But yeah, he gets a penalty if he makes the stroke. When a player can change the rules or options, the player's going to live with whatever he or she got right. So this is a very interesting way that they've put this new rule together of when we can change options during relief procedures. Like when we do something wrong, it's much more clear now. It used to be really fuzzy of trying to figure out what rule can we use now once we did something wrong. When can we change relief options? It's pretty well spelled out now. Okay? Whatever was an error can be corrected. So if you drop it in the right way but in a wrong place, we can fix that wrong place. We get to fix that. If we drop it in a wrong way in the right place, we still have to fix the wrong way. So the eraser rule is going to fix any mistakes we make. Okay, and it'll get more clear, hopefully, when we get through this here. So when we're correcting a mistake and taking relief, whether the player must use the same rule and relief option originally used or may change to a different rule or relief option depends on the nature of the mistake. And this is spelled out really well in the rules here, so just me yelling it at you, you don't have to remember it. You can read it. But let's go through it. So when the ball was put in play under a rule that did not apply, okay, we're going to talk about that. When a ball was put under a rule that did apply, but it was dropped or placed in the wrong place, and then we got when a ball was put under play or a rule that applied, was dropped and placed in the right place, but a rule requires the ball to be dropped or placed again. So those are the three situations that the rules are going to cover, and then whether or not we can flip-flop rules or go do something different. We'll get into it very specific. Okay, so when the ball was put into play under a rule that did not apply, in correcting this mistake, the player may use any rule that applies to his or her situation. One of the greatest things about the new rules of golf are the examples that they put in there. This is right there in your rules book. For example, a player mistakenly took an unplayable ball relief for his or her ball in a penalty area. Can you take relief for a ball in a penalty area? No. So this player is proceeding under an inapplicable rule. We cannot use this rule for an unplayable ball in a penalty area. So the player must correct the mistake by either replacing the ball if it had been lifted under Rule 9.4, which is a ball at rest moved, or taking penalty relief under 17, and may use any relief option under that rule that applies to his or her situation. Does that make sense? Okay, so the player started to take an unplayable lie in a penalty area. We found out and said, hey, you can't take an unplayable lie in a penalty area. Okay, so they had the ball in their hands. So we're going to either replace that ball back where it was, and they still get one penalty stroke for moving their ball in play, or they can just keep the ball in their hand and go into Rule 17, which is 2 club lengths for a red penalty area, back where you last played from, or back on a line relief. So that person was under 19, an applicable rule, now they get to go under 17. Make sense? Pretty good example. So if you're using a rule that did not apply, you get to use whatever rule is in your situation when you fix this mistake. This happens to be a penalty area rule. Okay? Number 2, so when the ball was put into play under a rule that applied, but the ball was dropped or placed in a wrong place. In correcting this mistake, the player must go on to take relief under the same rule, but may use any of the relief options underneath that rule that applies to their situation. Okay? So if you're using the correct rule and you put it in the wrong place, you're still allowed to go ahead and use that rule and any of the options within it. For example, if taking place for an unplayable ball, the player used the lateral relief option and mistakenly dropped the ball outside the required relief area. So this player was using 2 club lengths, but dropped it 3 club lengths. That's how we'll say that one. In correcting this mistake, the player must go on to take relief underneath the unplayable ball rule, but can use any of the options now. Go back to where they last played from, back on the line, or get the 2 club lengths right. Sound good? See, this is much more clear than it used to be, if you guys remember the way it used to be. All right, so when a ball was put into play under a rule that applied, but was dropped or placed in the right place, but the rule requires it to be dropped or placed again, in correcting this mistake, this player must go on to take relief using the same rule and the same relief option underneath that rule. So basically, the way that I think about this is, whatever you're getting right, you got to keep it. You got to keep on going and do the right thing. Okay, so we started off with the first situation where he just got the wrong rule. That just started off bad. So you got to pretty much start over when you fix this mistake. So for example, taking relief for an unplayable ball, the player used the lateral relief option, was dropped into the relief area, but was dropped in a wrong way. Say we dropped it from up here or something like that. Or it came to rest outside the relief area. In correcting this mistake, we have to use that lateral relief. We can't go ahead and go back to where we last played from. We can't use back on the line. Because we got a lot of it right, except one little thing. But when we fix that one little thing, we've got to keep everything that we got right. Okay? Hopefully that's pretty clear to everyone. Like I said, it's laid out there in the rules really well with great examples. Any questions on that? A lot of glazy eyes. Maybe it's you're taking it in, or you're like, Todd, we get this, just move on. Hold on, I'm just going to say that's what happened. All right. So when a ball is lifted under this rule, to correct a mistake, the player does not count any penalty for actions that were taken related to that ball after the mistake and before it was lifted, such as for accidentally causing it to move. This is the super eraser rule now. So if you put a ball in play at shoulder height and you walk back away from it and you're looking at your shot and you accidentally kick your ball, you've kicked what? Your ball in play. It's still in play, right? Is there a penalty for kicking your ball in play? Yes. Okay? But you just like, oh wait, I wasn't supposed to drop it up here. So you get to pick it up and all those penalties will go away. Okay? They all go away. This is a change. It used to not be that way, but now it is. Super eraser rule. Yay. Big fan. And I got that question wrong on the test, but now I won't. All right. So, but if those same actions were also in breach of a rule relating to the ball that was put into play to correct the mistake, such as when those actions improve the condition affecting the stroke, like we fixed the divot that we weren't supposed to, for example. For both the ball now in play and the original ball where it was lifted, the penalty will now apply to that ball in play. Okay, so if you did something that is going to fix a condition affecting the stroke, and this is really the only good example of this violation happening, like you replace the divot or you tap down where you weren't supposed to tap down, that penalty will not go away because you're going to put a ball into play that it's going to affect. Does that make sense? So even though you did something wrong here without your ball being in play, you're going to put a ball into play into that position, so the rule has got to penalize you for that. Does that make sense? If not, please talk to me afterwards. I can try to explain that a little bit better, but that's it. So there's the exception to that super eraser rule. So if you do something that also affects the ball that is going to be in play, again, usually under Rule 8 for the conditions affecting the stroke, then you are still going to hold on to that penalty.
If in that situation, you drop the ball from shoulder height, then you fix a divot area in that drop area, can you avoid the penalty for fixing the relief area?
Good question.
Or whatever by using a different option when you redrop?
So the question is, if we do an incorrect drop, and then we pick it up, we're going to fix it, then we fix a divot, which we know is a violation, okay? But you're allowed to go underneath a different option that does not affect that relief area, you would be okay. You would be okay in that situation. But that is also a great example of the exception, I'll use this moving forward, is of where you will get the penalty. So like if you drop from shoulder height into a relief area, and then you're like, oh, I can't do that, I pick it up, and then you replace a divot, and then you drop correctly into that relief area, that's when you're going to get that penalty that sticks because you fixed that area you're dropping. So
incorrect drop leaves the areas we were talking about, and then what was I thinking? You go ahead and you hit the shot in the wrong place, even after. Okay, you kicked it and accidentally moved it.
okay,
Scenario.
gotcha. So we have an incorrect drop. We have an incorrect drop that goes out of the relief area, whatever, and then we kick it and move it.
Right.
Okay, what penalties are going to apply?
Well, that could be erased, but then you go.
It could be erased, but if we do make a stroke.
Yeah.
So bad drop here, rolls out of the relief area, and we kick it. You know what the hell, we're having a great day. And then we play it. Okay, so you're going to get a penalty for playing from a wrong place, and you're going to get a one-stroke penalty for moving a ball. So it'll be a total of 3 strokes in that situation. Okay, because we have some different acts there. So 1.3C4 would kind of spell that out. If you don't understand that one, I'll go over it very specifically with you afterwards. So yeah, that's an example of where we're playing a ball and the eraser rule wasn't even applied because we did stuff so wrong there, we didn't even try to fix it. But we are going to have some separate penalties apply. Because whenever you move your ball in play, and this is very important to notice, an intervening act we talk about that will separate penalties, the intervening act when you move a ball in play is not replacing the ball because you're required to replace it. It's not necessarily a stroke every time, but if you kick a ball in play and fail to replace it, the failure to replace your ball is the intervening act. Okay. All right. How are we doing here? Not bad. In a stroke play event, Jackie has hit a ball into a red penalty area. She elects to take back on a line relief and drops it in the right way, but it rolls near the hole in her selected reference point, but further from the hole from where it crossed in the penalty area. Okay, everybody get that one? So the ball went into a penalty area, and she went back about 20 yards, dropped it, and it rolled past her reference point, but not past her spot where she went into the penalty area. Let's make sure we understand that question. She then lifts that ball under the eraser rule and moves forward on the line and selects a new reference point that's near the hole in her first reference point. She drops the ball in the relief area into the new, or excuse me, the right way into the new relief area and makes a stroke from there. Everybody understand the situation? I can go through it real quick again. We good? Just say no. Please tell me. We good? Want me to do it? Okay. Ball into the penalty area. She takes back on her line relief 20 yards behind the penalty area. The ball hits, rolls out of the relief area to 15 yards behind the penalty area. She picks it up, moves forward to 10 yards, and drops it in the right way there, in the correct way on that line. Okay? Sound good? All right, so now what do we think about that? Has she done this right? Are we allowed to do that? Are we allowed to move forward from our first reference point? Mark's nodding correct. He's got it. This procedure is fine. Why is this procedure fine? Right. It's the same relief option. She was proceeding back on a line, It fell out of the relief area. She did everything right except the right place. She can still proceed under the back on the line, which is still correct up here, as long as she doesn't go past where her ball crossed the margin of the hazard, penalty area. First time today I think I said hazard.
Isn't the ball in play?
She can still do stroke and distance. That's an option. No, wait, no, she can't. She can't. No, because she's dropped out of the penalty area, out of the relief area. You're right. She can't do that. She has to proceed under that. But she can move forward. She can move backward, as long as she stays on that line.
Isn't the ball in play once she dropped it?
Yep. Ball's always in play when you drop it.
So, came out of the
Came out of the relief area. So she's allowed. So when you put a ball in play and it comes out of the relief area, 14.5 allows the redrop. And then she can go anywhere on her line. Does that make sense? Did everybody get that question?
So the one club length does apply even though you're going back on a line that is infinite.
The one club length does apply going to create that little half moon. Yeah, for your relief area. The definition of the relief area for this rule is the reference point plus one club length. Yes. So remember, the old rule used to be drop on the line, but now back on a line relief gives us one club length from the reference point. Right. Bruce?
I think I got that. I think
Okay.
I asked Bill this question. You go back on the line, drop the ball,
Okay.
is it necessary to take relief one club length from either side of that, or can you play the ball from that spot?
As long as the ball is in the relief area, we've completed relief. So the question is, if we're doing back on a line relief, we create a reference point, which also will give us a definition of a relief area, which is what? One club length from that relief area, no nearer the hole, or from that reference point, no nearer the hole. So you can drop anywhere in that shaded area. So it could be on the reference point as long as it's right behind it, because the reference point is going to be just outside of that relief area, right? Just barely outside. So you want to just maybe get a little bit behind it to be okay. So we're probably going to use but you don't have to go a club length either direction, as long as it's anywhere in that area. But if you get really close to that reference point, I'm probably going to say that looks like it's in the relief area. You guys should know me by now. I don't like penalizing people. So, yes.
Curiosity, on back of the line relief.
Uh-huh.
Is the reference point the point which it last crossed the boundary of that hazard, or is the reference point the point that you deem
Good question.
as far back as you go?
Very good question. So the question is, what is the reference point on back in a line relief? Well, first of all, we're going to have a reference point created when the ball crosses into a penalty area. Now we take options based on that. So when we go on back on a line relief, the player selects a reference point for the relief area. Okay, and if the player does not select the point for the relief area, it's defined for them when they drop it and it hits the golf course. So you don't have to say, that's my reference point. But when we do drop a golf ball, it will create a reference point. Dick?
Would it not be a good idea to ask players to put a tee down?
Yes. Absolutely. It's a good idea to mark the reference point, and I believe the interpretations and any document I've ever looked at about back on the line relief says should, very strongly about that. Doug?
The rules refer to where across the margin of the penalty area at the estimated point. So there's the estimated point.
Gotcha. So it's not a reference. A reference point always refers to a relief area, correct? Yes.
That's chosen by the player.
Chosen by the player in this situation.
Like on the back of the line.
Right.
The estimated point, that's where it crosses.
That's okay. Got it. So estimated point's different than reference point. Perfect. Yep.
I thought in one of the very first sessions, we talked about that. And then if you go on the back of the line and you don't put a reference point down, I thought the understanding was where the ball strikes the course becomes the reference point.
No, the reference point then becomes the point on that reference line that is the same distance from the hole that your ball strikes the golf course.
Okay.
So because if you go on a line right between you and me and you drop it over here, the reference point is going to still be on the line, not over here. It's not going to twist to over here.
But the point being is if it then rolls farther than any amount, it is out of the reference.
More than likely. More than likely, yes. Yep. All right. Moving on to 14.6. We're getting close. Still good timing. All right, so we're going to talk about making a stroke from where the previous stroke was made. So whether or not, we're going to talk about if it's either the teeing area, the general area, penalty area, bunker, or putting green. So the 5 areas of the golf course, 14.6 is going to cover what we're going to do if we go back to where we last played from. Okay. Significant changes. Drop in a 1 club length relief area, not as near as possible. Okay, so what does that mean? Stroke and distance. If we hit a ball out of bounds from the fairway, what do we have to do in the old rule? come back and drop it basically right next to that divot, same spot, but now we've got the one club length from that reference point being that spot next to the divot. Okay, so now we can go anywhere we want. I got a fun question coming up about that one too as well. So the rules apply. This rule applies whenever a player is required or allowed. Okay, there's both the situations covered there. Under the rules to make the next stroke from where a previous stroke was made. So when taking stroke and distance relief or playing again for a stroke that is canceled. So it's not just stroke and distance. So like if we're playing in a match and I play out of turn and my stroke is recalled and I have to do it over again, this rule applies. Okay? Or if my putt on a putting green hits an animal that's moving around, I have to go back and replay it, so this rule will apply where I'm going to put the ball. Okay? And how the player is going to put the ball in play is going to depend specifically on where that stroke was made from the golf course. And in all these situations, the player may either use the original ball or substitute in that situation.
Todd, we talked about this in a different situation earlier, but if you say somebody's in the rough, they yank an OB, and they're right on the edge of the rough, they can now take that drop in the relief
Right.
area, even though it's in the fairway.
So if we hit a ball from the rough and it goes out of bounds, our relief area is going to be in the general area, which may include fairway. Yes. Yes. I got that one right. I know that one. I'm 100% sure on that one. All right. Okay, so if we play a ball from the teeing area, and we're going to come back and play again from the teeing area, we can play anywhere in the teeing area, and the ball may be teed. Okay? So it doesn't matter what we did. If we played it from the turf, we can re-tee it. We can again play it from the turf. We get all these different options that we can do. If we play it from a general area, a penalty area, or a bunker, the ball must be dropped within a one club length relief area, no longer as near as possible. So again, we've now got a relief area that we're talking about there in that second one, not just that exact spot. So anywhere that's not the teeing area, the putting green, and we go back to it, we are going to play a one club length area from that reference point, which was the original ball. On the putting green, the ball is going to be placed on the spot where the stroke was made. So if you hit a ball out of bounds from the putting green, you're going to go back and replace it. Jackie, you have any say on the putting green replacing your ball? Like, let's say you putted it into a penalty area?
I believe that in many cases, Todd, your best option is to play from the spot from which you previously played.
You sound like you have experience from that. We had a round in Florida where she actually did putt a ball into a hazard, and she went back stroke and distance and replaced it. We were keeping track of that at the KCGA of most putts into a penalty area. She leads with one. She also leads with...
I will get the trophy.
She probably will. She will also probably get the trophy for most birdies. She's also leading that count there as well. So I did have to point that out. So, all right. So again, the reference point when we're talking about the general area, the penalty area, the bunker, the reference point is the spot where the previous stroke was made, which if not known, which hopefully we do know, but if not, we're going to estimate it. You know, it's possible that you make a stroke and you go up there 200 yards, look for your ball, can't find it, come back and like, I'm not exactly sure where it was. We're going to estimate it and be okay. Size of the relief area is the one club length with the limits, and the ball must be in the same area of the course as the reference point and not near the hole. So if you play a ball from the general area that goes out of bounds and you come back, you must drop in the general area. Can't drop in a bunker, can't drop in a penalty area. Okay? It specifically says where this relief area is supposed to be. Okay? Previous stroke made from the putting green, the original ball or another ball must be placed on the spot where the previous stroke was made. So we got to go back to that exact same spot and place a ball. Okay? All right, here's my fun little question. In a stroke play event, Doug is playing the 15th hole. His approach shot hits the flag stick and goes into a yellow penalty area in front of the green. He elects to play again from the same spot, but drops in the right way 2 feet behind the original spot, so he won't hit the flag stick again. He then makes a stroke. Does this sound familiar to anyone? Yeah, the Masters, exactly. All right, so A, is this fine? Do we think this is good? All right, sounds good so far. Even though he didn't drop on the exact same spot, he's dropped 2 feet behind it, but where's that 2 feet behind going to be? It's going to be in the relief area, isn't it? Okay, let's look at some other things. He's penalized 2 strokes for wrong place. Doesn't sound like it, right? Sounds like we're good. Doug is disqualified. Am I the only one who says that? It's a good thing I'm not on the committee then. Doug is not disqualified only because the committee doesn't want to DQ the most popular player in the field. 33-7, I don't know. Old rule there. Okay, yeah, correct. So he's dropping, so the Tiger example, he would be dropping correctly in 2019. Okay, even though he did not drop correctly in 2016? I don't know, whenever. Doesn't matter. It's old stuff. It could have been 1941 for all I care. All right. Playing from the wrong place. We're there to the last part of this rule. And this, of course, is a fun little rule to talk about because there's a lot of things that can go on. So the ball must be played as it lies unless a rule says you can play it not as it lies. Love that. So the general penalty will apply for playing from a wrong place. So whether it's a serious breach or a standard breach, we're getting the general penalty for playing from a wrong place. And then a correction is not required unless a serious breach in stroke play. Okay? And why does it say stroke play? Why doesn't it mention match play in this rule? It's lost a hole. We're done. We don't care. After we play from a wrong place, we're done. We don't need to deal with anything else. Okay. Changes under this rule. Penalty under this rule is now this specific rule, not whatever rule we breached. So it's from a bookkeeping standpoint, it's just simple. It just says we're going to do it from this rule. Wrong place is actually now defined. So make sure that you look at that definition if you haven't already. Serious breach is defined as well. Gives the committee some ideas as to what a serious breach should be. And what's the main difference between a wrong ball and a wrong place? And I talk about this quite a bit in certain situations, but what's the biggest difference between a wrong ball and a wrong place? If we play a wrong ball, it was not your ball in play, right? If we play from a wrong place, it involved your ball in play. That's the biggest difference, is in play. So a wrong ball is not your ball in play. The wrong place situation, your ball was in play, might not have been right. In fact, it wasn't right because we're playing from a wrong place. But that's the difference. Penalties are not the same. That's why we have to differentiate that. Now, we're going to get general penalties, but we also have correctable penalties and have to be corrected penalties. So that's why we have to make sure we know the difference between a wrong ball and a wrong place. Okay. Playing a ball from a wrong place means it was the player's ball in play. It's the best way to remember that. Okay. Definition of wrong place. So it's any place on the course other than where the player is required or allowed to play his or her ball under the rules. So even in that little sentence there, it's talking about your ball. So it's not a wrong ball. This is a wrong place. Examples of playing from a wrong place are playing a ball after replacing it on the wrong spot or without replacing it when required by the rules. Best example is a ball in the putting green is in somebody's way. You move it a club head to the side, and you don't move it back. You're playing from a wrong place. Two-stroke penalty or loss of hole. If you're playing stroke play, we're just going to keep on playing with the two-stroke penalty. We're not going to correct that error because it was not a serious breach. Playing a drop ball from outside the required relief area is a wrong place. Your ball shouldn't be there to be struck. That's a wrong place. Taking relief under a wrong rule so that the ball is dropped and played from a place that is not allowed under the rules. So if you're underneath an inapplicable rule, even if you think you're dropping it in the wrong place, this is a wrong place situation. And playing a ball from a no-play zone when a no-play zone interferes with the player's area of intended stance or swing. We haven't really gotten deep into a no-play zone, but playing from there is not allowed, hence the rule and hence the name, so it's a wrong place.
Is that one of the 5 places, play zone?
No-play zone is just, the no-play zone can apply at different places on the golf course. It's not an area of the golf course. It's a rule that can be applied to different areas of the golf course. So playing a ball from outside the teeing area in starting a play of a hole or in trying to correct a mistake you made is not playing from a wrong place. So once you're playing outside the teeing area, even though English says that's a wrong place, golf says it's not. Okay? We're going to go into Rule 6.1b and deal with that. So we're going to not be playing from a wrong place. We're going to be playing from outside the teeing area. Okay. So after starting a hole, a player must make each stroke from where his or her ball comes to rest, except when you're not supposed to. Again, I love that one. So playing from outside of the relief area is a wrong place, again. And the penalty for playing from a wrong place is the general penalty. Okay? Match play is loss of hole, no further discussion needed. We're moving on. So if we're playing in a 4-ball match, Doug and I are partners. Somehow we've made up, and now we're playing together again. And Doug plays from a wrong place, I can still play. It's not a loss of hole to the side, it's the loss of hole penalty for Doug. So he's out, but I can keep on playing. Okay. If multiple rules breach, we're going to go to 1.3c4 as always. Okay, so here's what happens. So let's say we're going to complete a hole after playing from a wrong place, and it's highlighted in stroke play because it only applies in stroke play. What a player does next depends on whether or not it was a serious breach. So that is whether the player could have gained a significant advantage by playing from a wrong place. We're going to give some examples here of what is serious and what is not. So, all right, in stroke play, what is a serious breach? When playing from a wrong place could give a player a significant advantage compared to the stroke to be made from the right place. In making this comparison to decide if this was a serious breach, the factors we're going to include are going to be the difficulty of the stroke, the distance of the ball from the hole. Like if we were supposed to play it from 20 yards and we played it from 1 yard, that's probably a serious breach. The effect of obstacles in the line of play. So like if you take some sort of relief that you're not allowed that gets you out from a bunch of trees in your way and puts you in the middle of the fairway, we might have a serious breach there in that situation. Okay? And the conditions affecting the stroke. Like if you were supposed to play the ball as it lies in a bush and you just said, well, I get free relief from this, I'm going to drop it in the fairway, that's going to be a serious breach as well. So not a serious breach. The player must play out the hole with the ball played from the wrong place without correcting the mistake. And the penalty is covered in this rule. So we've got a ball on a cart path. They're supposed to drop in the gray area. They drop over here on the right side, so the ball's dropped in the wrong place and played. This is not a serious breach, but it is a wrong place. So we're going to penalize the player 2 strokes in stroke play. They're going to lose the whole in match play. And in stroke play, we're just going to keep on playing. And it's a good example is the putting green as well as when you move your ball off to the side and you play it, 2-stroke penalty, but keep putting. Okay, we're not going to correct it.
If there's a tree in front of that ball played from the wrong place?
Yeah, I mean, it's possible that this could be a serious breach. I mean, it's possible, but this example it's not. But yeah, it could come up. And a serious breach is also defined by the committee. You know, you have to have the committee come up to it and say, yeah, you shouldn't have played there. That's a serious breach. We're going to deal with it as a serious breach. So there's no black or white answer to that. There's a lot of good guidance of what the committee can consider a serious breach. So if we do have a serious breach, the player must correct the mistake, and there's that word must that we see quite a bit, by playing out the hole with the ball played from a right place under the rules. So in this example here, a player hits a ball that goes across the penalty area and enters there. Can the player drop in that shaded area underneath the penalty area rule? No. They're not allowed to go off to the side 2 club lengths. That's not one of their options. Okay? So they're dropping a ball on the green side of a penalty area when they're supposed to go drop it on the other side. This is what would be a serious breach. Okay? Everybody agree that's a serious breach? Okay. So we have to go back and play that from the right spot. We have to correct the rules. We're still going to get the penalty, but we have to go back and apply the correct rules. So if the player does not correct this mistake before making a stroke to begin another hole or for the final hole of the round, before returning the scorecard, the player is disqualified. So this is very similar wording to what? A wrong ball, not holing out. This is one of those mistakes you have to fix in stroke play, otherwise you're going to get DQ'd. Okay. So what to do if we're uncertain of whether or not the breach is serious? The player should play at the hole with both balls. This is one of those situations that you get to play 2 balls. And then the same procedures will happen if we are playing 2 balls, which we'll discuss in Rule 20, the common one of playing 2 balls and getting a ruling. But the ball played from the wrong place, we got to play out if we're not sure if it's right, a serious breach or not. And then the second ball played underneath whatever rule we're applying. For this example, we would go back on a line maybe, or go back to where we last played from and play that ball out as well.
And the same thing as in the past, when you have a 2-ball situation, you got to keep it separate. This is my first ball.
You got to be able to, you got to be able to identify which balls, how many strokes are made from each ball. Absolutely, absolutely. Okay. Also, since we played 2 balls, we're requiring the player to report the facts to the committee before returning the scorecard, and this applies whether the player played out the ball with only that ball or with 2 balls, or if the score was the same. So even anytime you play 2 balls, you have to report to the committee. Okay. Again, the committee will decide the player's fate. If it's not a serious breach, we're just going to count that ball, add 2 strokes. Okay? And if the committee decides that it is a serious breach, we're going to disqualify that player if they didn't fix the serious breach. But if they do fix the serious breach, we're still going to put the 2-stroke penalty on there, and then we're going to count their balls played underneath the rules. So the wrong place penalty does not go away. Serious breach or regular breach, you're going to get penalized with that. No strokes played with the ball played from the wrong place will count if we count that. So if we keep on playing this ball that we've dropped on the other side of the hazard, penalty area twice. So if we drop it over there and we play it out, we're not going to count those strokes. We're just going to count the 2-stroke penalty when we go back and correct this. All those strokes will go away. If the second ball is also played from the wrong place, we're going to repeat the procedure. So if we happen to do it again wrong, we can still fix it. It's still going to be a penalty again, though. All right, everybody good on wrong place? Any questions on that?
In that
Steve?
situation there, we just talked about,
No. No, it's got to make the stroke. Got to make the stroke still. He can fix that. The eraser rule will save your butt many times. It will. So yeah, this penalty will always fall on the stroke. Yep.
So he's gonna get penalized and then fix it after he makes the stroke.
Yes.
And he gets the two strokes, and he said, oh, I did the wrong place, I go back and fix it.
Right. Yeah. If it's a serious breach. Yeah. If it's a not serious breach and you go and fix it, you're getting more penalties. So like if you make a standard breach, the putting green breach, for example, where you move it off to the side and play it from there, you get a two-stroke penalty, but then you're like, oh no, I was supposed to play from over there, and you go pick up your ball. Now you got another penalty for moving your ball in play, and you're going to play from a wrong place again. And so that's one of those, you got to make sure we know the difference between a serious breach and a regular breach. All right, so in a stroke play event, Bailey's ball is at rest on a cart pass. She correctly determines her point of complete relief and drops the ball in the right way into the relief area. She makes a stroke and her club accidentally strikes the cart pass she took relief from. What's the ruling? Does this seem like a penalty or no? If you're taking free relief, what must you do? Take complete relief. If the rules of golf are giving you a break, you've got to take careful advantage of it. Bailey's penalized 2 strokes for playing from a wrong place. You've got to take free relief. Got to take free relief. Okay, well, you know what I'm getting at here. So, but she accidentally strikes the cart path, so she didn't take complete relief. So even though it says in the question, she thinks she's taking complete relief, she wouldn't be. That's not how I wrote the question. I know what you're saying because you like to pick at my mistakes, and I love it because I learn a lot. But no, if you take complete relief, then you didn't hit the cart path. So you have to take complete relief or free relief.
Whether it's accidental or not.
Whether it's accidental or not, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
It's the old pain.
The old Payne-Stewart rule, exactly. Okay. Everybody good on that one? Mark wasn't, but he pointed it out, so we're good. All right, quiz review. True or false, when dropping a ball, it may always be substituted. True. Even though that word always is in there, it's true. Substitution is always allowed when taking free or penalty relief. When redropping a ball, it may always be substituted. True or false? Still true. Still true. Anytime you're dropping a ball, you can substitute. The player is going to make the stroke must always drop the ball. False. Okay. Underneath rules 22 and 23, a partner may act for the side. And again, that's that little blue statement in the bottom of all the rules that you see that allow the partner to act for the player or to act for the side and act as the player. If a caddy lifts the ball from the putting green, the caddy must also replace it. True or false? False. The caddy, player, or partner may replace the ball. So there's 3 people that can do that there. In stroke plays, Todd's ball comes to rest in a bush in the general area. He elects to take lateral relief for an unplayable ball and drops in the right way, but the ball rolls out of the relief area. He picks up the ball and drops in the right way, but uses the back on the line relief procedure and makes a stroke. What is the ruling? Does that sound good or bad? No penalty. Todd may change his relief option here. For 14.52. The player drops the ball in the right way, but he must redrop. He may proceed under any of the options of that rule. And as I look at that rule, I want to read this question again. So it might not be right. We'll put everybody up on this one for a second. So, because I'm thinking it might not be right. So forget that even happened. Because I want to look at the answer. All right, in stroke play, Doug is taking relief from a sprinkler head. He drops the ball in the right way, but it rolls out of the relief area, accidentally hits his foot and comes to rest back in the relief area. What's the correct ruling? Is this ball in play? Is this ball in play correctly? Yeah, no penalty. The ball is in play. We're going to play as it lies. So a player completes relief when a drop ball is dropped in the right way, strikes the ground in the relief area, and comes to rest in the relief area. Question number 4, in stroke play, Bailey has lifted her ball correctly from the putting green. When it's her turn to play, she casually tosses the ball into the green and replaces it in the correct position with her putter and holds a putt for a 4. She tees off in the next hole. What's going to be her score for the hole? She's going to get a 5 because she did not replace the ball in a correct way. You can't just put it in there with your club. You've got to use your hand. So, but it's not a correctable error or anything like that. She's just going to get the 1 stroke and move on.
But she only gets the 1 stroke for not replacing it, right? She doesn't get the 1 stroke for the marker still being there.
We're going to assume she moved the mark, but if we want to put that in there, she's going to get another penalty. That's a good example. No, if we want to put that on there, if we say that she left her marker in there, we're going to have 2 separate events here, and she's going to get 1 and 1. You're right. Yeah. So if we rule it that way, and we say that she left it in place, that's going to be 2 different positions. So, So which of the following situations, possibly multiple, is going to be the player's ball in play? So we set a ball set aside on the fringe by a player after marking on the putting green. Is that ball in play? No, because there was no intent to put it in play. You just set it off to the side. Okay? Now if the player was trying to put it in play over there, that ball would be in play. A ball replaced by a caddy after the player lifted it, not in play. The player lifts the ball, the partner must replace it. So what I talked about earlier, I already had the right answer up here. So the player, if the player lifts the ball, the player or the partner has to replace it. If the caddy lifts the ball, the player, the partner, or the caddy can replace it. Okay? But this is a good question. We have to ask the caddy what his intent was, if he's going to put it in play or not. So that's a very good point. So if the caddy had intent to put the ball in play, is the ball in play? Yes. If he did not have intent. So this question probably needed to say the caddy wants it there to be played. But if he doesn't want it there, if he's just setting it down, like to be read or something like that, for you to read it from the other side, then it's not in play.
Okay, but then does it have to be lifted and replaced?
Something has to be done. Yeah, the player has to put it in play. So even if the player goes and just kind of pinches it, I would say he put it in play. So yeah, the intent of the caddy would have to be involved in that question as well. I told you Rule 14 was a booger. I struggle with it as well as anybody else does. A favorite putting ball put on the green by the player, but the ball marker was not removed. Is that ball in play? It is in play. You can't put a putting ball you can't make a stroke with it, but it is currently in play. You can fix that mistake. We're not going to penalize the player for just putting it in play. But if he makes a stroke, he's going to get penalized for substituting a ball when he's not allowed. In taking relief from a red penalty area, a substituted ball dropped by the partner from shoulder height and not in the relief area. Lots of bad stuff going on here. But is the ball in play? It's in play. Although the requirements weren't met and the partner put it there, the ball is still in play. Okay. For a ball played under the following situations, is there a penalty or not? So this situation, we're going to assume a stroke was made. So a ball is lifted in the general area to determine if it's cut and replaced on the correct spot, but rotated so the player can use the name as an alignment aid. Do we get a penalty there? No. The ball may be replaced in any orientation as long as it's on the right spot. Okay? So we always get this question like if you're checking to see if a ball is embedded and there's a chunk of mud on it, and the mud was going to be where you were going to hit the ball with your next stroke, can you rotate it and get the mud away from you? Yeah, you can. Just don't tee it up on the mud. That would be different because you'd have a different vertical placement. Taking relief for an embedded ball is substituted for new ball because it was scuffed. Can we do that? No penalty, yeah. In taking relief, substitution is always allowed. Again, when you're dropping, go ahead and substitute it. Doesn't matter what the reason is. A drop ball hits outside of the relief area but comes to rest in the relief area. We make a stroke, are we penalized? Yes. A ball striking outside of the relief area must be redropped. So even though a ball came to rest in the relief area, we still get a penalty. Okay, a caddy stops a drop ball from rolling out of the relief area because it will clearly roll into a penalty area. Ricky Fowler, I don't know, talk about him. Is that a penalty? Penalty, the ball must be redropped. No penalty for stopping it, though. Let me look at that one again.
He played it from that
He played it from that spot. That's right. Not the Ricky Fowler situation. You're right. He played it. I'm having a rough day, Dave. You know, it's like my Monday is Tuesday. So yeah. So once you play that stroke, that's when you get the penalty. Exactly. I've said that a couple times today, and I forgot it myself right there. All right. So a ball hit out of bounds from the general area is dropped in the correct relief area and comes to rest within one club length of the reference point, but in a bunker. If we play that, is that a penalty? Penalty. This is the correct procedure for playing from the spot from the previous stroke was made, but the relief must be the same area as the course as the reference point. Okay, that's right there in that rule. It tells you the limitations on the reference point. And a player makes a stroke at a non-conforming ball that is later determined not to count when she's playing two balls, trying to correct an error for playing a serious breach of a wrong place. So she played a non-conforming ball on one of her two balls, but that ball didn't count. Is she going to be penalized for that? No penalty. All strokes made, including strokes or even a DQ penalty, are disregarded when the ball is not to count. Okay? I think that's all we got here for today.